The views and opinions expressed during this program are not necessarily those of Overseas Radio Network, the Expat Broadcasting Group, the staff, management, or broadcast partners. All information provided is for educational purposes only. Before taking action, consult a licensed professional.
The Coast to Coast.
Check 1, 2. Testing.
Now hear me.
You're listening to This Week in Costa Rica.
Once the volume control is set, do not readjust.
On the Overseas Radio Network.
That's why I want you to go on the radio.
This Week in Costa Rica, bringing you the latest information from expats, experts, and people just like you who chose to escape, retire, and live in Costa Rica.
Listen and decide in your own mind what sounds best.
Got a question? A comment?
They have to be dealt with on an altogether different level.
Or just want to talk to an expert on living in Costa Rica?
Brother, what a way to make a living.
Give us a call now.
Hello?
Lines are open and your answers are just one phone call away.
Now, if you have some suggestions to offer, we're willing to listen to you.
Ready?
This Week in Costa Rica with your host,
Who you?
Corey Coates.
And now, folks, it's showtime.
Welcome to This Week in Costa Rica. Another beautiful Monday afternoon coming to you from Paco Beach, the Overseas Radio Broadcast Facility here on the West Coast. It's a beautiful jewel of a nation, my expatriation destination. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Another thanks goes out to Andrew Woodbury for joining me in studio today. Andrew, how are you?
I'm all right, Corey. How are you?
I am amazing. Living the life, living the dream. I want to thank you for coming in today because, look, we got a lot of feedback from the last hour of last week's show when we talked all things ESL and specifically about opening the TESOL Center here in Costa Rica. So I think it's a good chance for you and I to sit down and address some of the big questions that did come up.
Oh, good. No, I'm happy to hear about the feedback, and absolutely, let's hit it.
Well, you know, because as we speak on this, Costa Rica is a major English as a second language destination for many teachers, and a great number of them are interested in how can they get that certification, how can they move down here, and how can they make a go of it. I mean, for a lot of expats, teaching English abroad is really that stepping stone to living in a foreign country.
That's it. I mean, it's a humongous market here, in big part because Costa Rica is a place in this area of the world that people gravitate to, and that they look to do that here in Costa Rica. And we're opening the school to allow people to or give people a better chance to do that.
I want you guys to stick around today. We've got a lot to talk about. We're only going to be doing 1 hour because, frankly, we're super busy here getting the school opened up. A lot of activity circulating around that. We are going to be speaking about that within this hour. But if you guys want to send us an email and talk about this at any point, you certainly can. And that's going to be info@thisweekincosta.rica. Coming up on today's show, I am going to be talking to Dan Stevens as well from the Costa Rican Times about what's going on in the Central Valley. And I'm really excited to say, Woody, I got coming up on segment 4 today, a fellow by the name of Doug Smith, and he runs a little company that we had on the show a while back called willspy.com, and he does private investigation services here in Costa Rica. And I'd love to speak to you a little bit about this because, honestly, I've got mixed feelings about it.
Okay,
let me look at it this way because, I'm a single guy down here in Costa Rica, yeah?
You are?
And a single guy down in Costa Rica has an opportunity to, meet a lot of young, beautiful single women in the Costa Rica, right?
Well, that's true.
And I have, and I'm happy to enjoy dating a lot of girls here and kind of see what my options are. But there are
good for you.
Thank you. But there are real concerns for an expat, or more specifically, a North American coming down to Costa Rica and getting themselves involved in a relationship with a girl.
Well, yeah. I mean, the dating world here is a little bit more complicated than maybe where we're from. We're both Canadian, but the U.S., Canada, maybe a little bit more complicated as we're seen a little bit differently. So there is something to be said for being a little bit more careful with who you choose to associate with and who you choose to take that next step with.
Well, I'm not necessarily naive, but I do definitely take on that naivete that is common in Costa Rica for those individuals who live in a position as I do. For example, let me put it this way. I live in a nice place on the west coast of Jaco. So I'm living in a beautiful condominium. I look like I'm doing quite well.
Yes, you do.
And the concern is when I get myself into a relationship with an individual, is she seeing me for what my success is, or is she seeing me for who I am and interested in me as a person?
Yeah, that's always the question. And it's tough to ask. I mean, you don't want to be thinking like that, but to be honest, I mean, you kind of have to, at least a little bit. When you have a nice place and a nice job and you're here not from Costa Rica, there is that wonderment maybe that why did she like me, or does she like kind of being with me for other reasons?
Well, here's the reality is that, even as an expat, even as a Canadian, especially as a Canadian, we're seen as, well, let's face it, bottom line, we're seen as rich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for me, a young guy, I'm not young, but I guess 38, that's young, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, you're so kind. I really appreciate that. At 38, I'm sitting here and I'm dating some girls that are really nice in their early 30s. But it looks like, I'm trying to find the way to put this politely without being controversial about it. But I think there's no way I can step around it lightly other than to say I'm a walking passport and a ticket out of Costa Rica in the eyes of a lot of Costa Ricans.
Right. And we say that not because it's wrong or whatever, but that is something that happens with people that maybe, a little bit older than what you are, Corey. But that is whatever word you want to use, but it is the reality of Latin America. I wouldn't say Costa Rica, but in Latin America, that is a reality.
Well, there's two things you said there I want to address. One, thank you for acknowledging there are people older than I am. I think that's kind.
Some people.
Yeah, very few.
Most people, but some.
There's one or two out there. I think the oldest man in the world is 116, so way to go. The second, though, is that, you're right, is that when I'm sitting in a town like Jaco here on the West Coast, and I'm fairly well-to-do, and I am a foreigner, and I speak Spanish well, and I've been in Costa Rica for 6 or 7 years, there is a perception that I am a really good opportunity for a lot of young women in this country. And I'm skeptical when anyone who is not, let's say, upwardly mobile within their profession or career-driven as a young woman is interested in going out with me. I have to say, in the back of my mind, the question is raised, is she interested in me, or does she like the fact that I'm a Canadian, ergo rich, which is obviously, we know, absurd, but still, that's the perception, and an opportunity to get out of this country.
But I'm not sure how this conversation turned into all about you specifically, but yeah,
it's my show.
You're right. That's always a consideration. Disclaimer: I've lived here for 3 years, and I have not found myself in that situation. I've dated girls here, and they've been really nice, and I have not, to my knowledge anyway, been in that kind of situation. But that is something that you need to think about and not be so naive to think that could not happen, because it very well could happen.
Let me put it to you this way. This is what I'm actually spiraling towards. It's the point. And the point is why I called Doug Smith, and why I'm going to talk to him in the fourth segment of this particular show, is because, he raises a fair point. And this is where I was having kind of those mixed emotions, is that if I were to get myself seriously involved with a girl here, and I feel like there is a future in this relationship, Doug strongly recommends that you spend the $300 to $400 to have a private investigator do a background check on her, do a little bit of research. Is she involved in any shady situations? Is she involved in financial troubles? Heck, she's going to tell a story later on about a girl who actually has been arrested and convicted and then went ahead and married a foreigner.
Yeah, that's something that, living at home in the States and Canada, it's not something that you think about on a regular basis, but here that's something that you may consider doing. More so because here, it's a girl is part of a big family, and it's, family can extend to who knows where.
All right, I think that's the topic, and a whole bunch more. We're going to talk Teasel, call Dan Stevens, call Doug Smith. Woody's hanging out in studio. Stick around, guys. This is This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip.
You're listening to the Overseas Radio Network, the exclusive online radio station for the expatriate community.
Looking to invest, live, or retire overseas? Before you pack your bags, you need to log on to nagellog.com. It's the only stop you need to make for global business, asset protection, estate planning, overseas residency, and citizenship needs. Our experts have experience working in 41 countries around the world. Starting a business abroad can be overwhelming without expert help. We assist clients with foreign trust, foundations, corporations, LLCs, IBCs, and property acquisition. Need help with IRA assets abroad, capital formation, foreign securities issues, banking, brokerage, or finance needs? nagellog.com. We ensure compliance with U.S. tax and regulatory laws. We engineer global structures to help our clients achieve their personal and business objectives. To find out about our introductory personal asset protection plan, visit NagelLaw.com. NagelLaw.com. We represent capital overseas.
Belize, an asset protection haven where English is the official language. If you've been considering protecting your assets with an offshore trust or foundation, look no further. An asset protection structure from Georgetown Trust will serve you and your family for generations to come. Your grandkids will be grateful for the legacy that you were wise enough to establish for them today. You'll rest easy because Belize has some of the most protective trust laws in the world, and it's all done in English. Georgetown Trust has served thousands of clients over the past 15 years with integrity, efficiency, and privacy. Georgetown Trust also serves as a registered agent for IBC's mutual funds and insurance companies. If you're an offshore service provider, inquire about wholesale structures to fit almost any offshore need. Visit our website today, www.georgetowntrust.com, and see how simple and affordable getting started can be. Mention ORN and receive $100 off a structure formation. That's www.georgetowntrust.com.
You've decided that you want to move overseas for that quality of life experience you've always dreamed of. But you don't want to give up the best of back home. We agree. Things like high-speed internet, safe neighborhoods where you can stroll along a shaded sidewalk, a place where you know your neighbors and you have friends close by. These are important. Grand Pacifica Beach and Golf Resort gives you the best comforts of back home paired with the exceptional lifestyle only available south of the border. Imagine strolling along over 3 miles of secluded beach, playing a round of golf along the ocean, surfing a world-class break all to yourself, enjoying a fine meal on your balcony and toasting to another spectacular sunset. All this and more can be yours only an hour from Managua. Complete home and lot packages start under $100,000, and a nice home on the golf course is yours for the mid-twos. Come visit for a weekend and enjoy our oceanside golf course. Ride horseback on the beach, meet your future neighbors, and make some new friends. Grand Pacifica may be a place you'd like to call home. For more information, email Mike at mikesgringolife.com. That's Mike at mikesgringolife.com.
You're tuned in to overseasradio.com, the station to help you reach your dream destination.
This Week in Costa Rica is hosted by Canadian entrepreneur Corey Coates. Corey has been living and working as a professional in Costa Rica for over 5 years.
I've been lost in my own place, and I'm getting with it.
He's built a vast network of professional connections to help you with everything from immigration to relocation. Call in or send Corey an email to talk about the steps you need to take in making your dream of living in paradise a reality.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. Another beautiful afternoon here in Jaco Beach. Coming to you from the Overseas Radio Broadcast Facility. Segment 2 means I call into the greater San Jose area. Get all the news and blues from the editor and founder of the Costa Rican Times, Mr. Dan Stevens. Dan, how are we?
I'm good, Corey. Yeah, you excited about that medical conference you're going to attend this week?
I'm a little bit excited, but I have to tell you, there's a couple things that concern me about it. We'll talk off air, but I'm just a little bit worried about how this thing's being conducted. So to tell you the truth, I think I'm going to go to this conference and I'm going to actually dig a little bit deeper to find out what the motivation of this truly is.
That sounds perfect to me. And I actually will really be coming to Jaco this weekend. So,
you know what? You say things and I just don't believe you anymore. That's the way it works now between you and I.
I know. I've turned Costa Rican. I apologize.
We got a ton of news to get here, too. And there's a couple things I wanted to probe you on. Number one, what's going on really with water pollution here in Costa Rica?
I've been doing a little research on this. I've had some friends around town, including, I think a gentleman that was on your show, Mr. Doug Smith with Will Spy. And, if you've been around San Jose, and I know you lived here for a while, the rivers here are disgusting. They are filled with tires, dirty diapers, furniture. What's occurred is this pollution will go directly from the houses into the rivers. They will just throw trash in it, and no one's really cleaning it up. I know that they have contracted out a company out of Spain to build a sewage plant, which should be up and running in close to about 2 years. But my big question is, what about now?
Yep.
And I mean, because these rivers, I mean, it's not like you dump stuff in it, and then it disappears. These rivers are going directly out to you at the ocean.
That's right. You're absolutely right, because there is I think the fecal matter that they've found here in the rivers is exceedingly high, especially here at the mouth of the river where it empties out into the ocean.
Yeah, well, I've walked over that bridge in Hako, and I don't know about you, but I don't think I'd want to go swimming in that river.
Yeah, it's interesting because, it's for such a green country, or at least it boasts to be such a green country. There really is this sort of blight on it where, not a lot of people know that pollution really is a big issue here. I think there's as many as 25 open dump sites in this country as well.
Yeah, there's that, and actually they just had a world sports fishing tournament down in Capos.
Yep.
As well as a marathon over the past weekend. And there's a big issue going on right now because Capos and Manuel Antonio are a little bit below sea level. When rainy season starts, the sewage pipes and all the stuff that's dumped out of the houses and those toilets and showers, etc., starts bubbling up to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an extreme problem. Even last weekend, the wastewater was being found in the ocean and with toilet paper and fecal matter. And I mean, for me, I don't want to go swimming in a toilet. I mean, do you?
Well, no. And it's interesting because, I think Lyle and I have spoken on this as well, because I'm not very well versed on this particular subject, but I can say that there is a program in Costa Rica that I think is good, and it's called that Blue Flag Beach Program. That is going to examine each of the beaches, look at what their environmental status is, and then grant them a blue flag if they, for example, are environmentally balanced or sound or stable. And Hako has never, ever had a blue flag on its beach, and probably never will for this reason.
Right. No, agreed. It's just disturbing to me because I look at what's happening with the Costa Rican government and Miss Chinchilla spending millions of dollars to improve her image. Well, I think that money can be spent better trying to improve problems here in Costa Rica. Instead, why don't you address problems? And I think that, in essence, would improve your image instead of throwing more money on another smoke and mirrors campaign.
Fair point. Speaking of smoke and mirrors and absurdities, I was reading in La Nación, the national newspaper here the other day, and you probably came across this story. Is it true that they're considering jailing people in this country for selling toy guns?
Yeah, we're actually going to be doing an article on this today, and of course you'll know my point of view on this. I don't hold anything back when I write. So, what's humorous to me is the fact that, okay, they're looking at letting 2,000 prisoners go with either ankle or wrist bracelets, I don't know, but bracelets, and because the prisons are overcrowding. What happened was there was a couple of kids that bought toy guns in an area of Costa Rica and painted, I guess, the orange little thing on the toy gun black, and were robbing people. And I agree that should be taken care of, but address it as a situation. I mean, what they're doing now is they're saying that if you sell toy guns in a public area, which I guess I don't know any private off the books toy gun stores, then they're going to put you in jail for like 3 to 6 months or 3 to 6 years.
Isn't there a middle ground we could meet here? Like, couldn't we have like a background check on a child before it's given a toy gun?
I think so. I mean, I think that maybe you should be able to have to get your schedule and driver's license, maybe your tourist visa before being able to get a toy gun. And
perhaps a psychological evaluation.
Yeah, but I don't think many Costa Ricans would pass that. I know I wouldn't, though. So.
All right, that's your opinion, not mine. But I can tell you this much: if it gets to this stage, if it gets this absurd here, because I know that the gun laws here in Costa Rica are super strict, of course, and rightly so, as they should be in a Central American country. But I mean, if it gets to the point where there's really actually talk within legislation to have something like this put on the books, I don't know how I'm going to respond, to be honest.
I don't know either. I mean, it seems more and more like Costa Rican's government is trying to mimic the United States. And that's fine if you're able to actually implement these laws. But there's so many other problems that are out there that are more important than this. cost of living, salaries, pollution, and the list goes on and on. Why not address those things first before pushing through legislation that just makes no sense at all?
Yeah, it just seems like, I mean, there's so many laws in the book right now that they just can't seem to afford to enforce. That really, it seems like it's time to maybe whittle it all down and rein it in. One last thing, maybe on the lighter side of things, I noticed there's a Dell store opening up in Moravia. Is this right?
Yeah, it's actually at Lincoln Plaza. I'm excited because I've got an old Dell laptop that I always have to get parts for and try to get fixed down here, and this will make it a little bit easier. They opened up they actually been on a trial run for about a month and a half. But they are now opened up in Moravia. I will actually get you the hours in 1 second. They are from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and Sundays from 10 to 8. And it's their flagship store in Costa Rica, and they've got all kinds of things there. I mean, they've got computers, tablets, laptops, Dell accessories, as well as an Alienware line. And I'm excited about it.
Always good to have more options for us Windows users out there. Look, Dan, I got to run, buddy. Coming up to a commercial break, got to pay the bills here. I want to thank you again for your time today, sir.
Sounds good to me, Corey. Thanks a lot for your time as well.
My pleasure. Stick around, guys. You're listening to This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip.
Live call-in shows and hosts from your favorite countries. This is the Overseas Radio Network.
Worried about rising taxes, costly insurance, out-of-control healthcare, economic decline, staggering debt, mortgages, and retirement? It doesn't have to be this way. Escape to Ecuador, one of the most beautiful countries on the planet, and at EcuadorAtYourService.com, be your guide. Ecuador has been named the #1 retirement destination in the world 3 times in a row. So if you're searching for beaches, jungles, farmlands, cities, affordable healthcare, and a richer lifestyle at half the cost, contact EcuadorAtYourService.com.
This is 90 Seconds with Joel Nagel on the Overseas Radio Network.
I have under $250,000 in assets I'd like to protect. I know of many people that recommend holding some of my assets in foreign currency. What percentage of this would you recommend, and why?
Well, holding foreign currencies is sort of a natural add-on to the first issue, which is having a foreign bank account. Oftentimes people want to hedge their exposure. They want to protect themselves if something should happen to the U.S. dollar. They'd like to have some of their wealth in other currencies. We recommend that folks have at least 10 to 20% of their net worth denominated in currencies other than the dollar. We're not investment advisors, so we're not, it's not like we're trading currencies on a day-by-day basis, but there are currencies out there that over the long haul we think will be more safe and sound than the U.S. dollar. And these include currencies such as the Swiss franc, the currencies that we refer to as reserve currencies or natural reserve currencies such as Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. Also, the Singapore currency is very popular, as is the Brazilian real at the moment. But that's more of a, a play on the success of the Brazilian economy at the moment. But those are the top foreign currencies for folks right now.
For more information on the 15 global strategies to protect your wealth, visit NagelLaw.com. That's NagelLaw.com.
This is Kathleen Petticord and Leif Simon with the Live and Invest Overseas Minute on the Overseas Radio Network. How would a move overseas affect your tax burden? The good news is that moving overseas as a retiree, earning only retirement income, should be a tax-neutral event. Any local tax obligation in the country where you relocate will depend on where and how your income while living there is derived, and foreign retirement income, Social Security income or pension income, for example, typically isn't taxed anywhere in the world.
Your tax situation can be more complicated, and it is possible that you could acquire a new tax burden in the country where you relocate if you have earned income or investment income in addition to your retirement income. That's why you need to seek experienced professional counsel on this before making your move. Once you've taken up residence in your new country, some options for mitigating and managing your tax burden could be taken off the table.
For more information on making the leap overseas, visit us online at liveandinvestoverseas.com.
You're tuned in to overseasradio.com, your online radio resource about life abroad.
Good. What? What is it? This Week in Costa Rica. Fun, informative, and your questions answered. Talk live with one of our on-air experts and start living your dream now.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. Big thanks to Dan Stevens from the Costa Rican Times, saving me the time to have to go through all the news, telling me what's going on in Costa Rica. Always appreciate that call. You can find links to his website on my website, thisweekincostarica.com. Hanging out with Woody today in the studio, talking on a number of issues. But you know what? I can't let this topic go. I'm a relatively young man, but not middle-aged. I don't know where that flies. It's like I'm not old, but I'm not young. 38.
Are you asking me where you lie?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the judgment here. I'm just going to sit back, wait for the judgment.
I don't want to be the judge on that.
But I'm a single man in Costa Rica.
I'll put it this way: you don't look 38.
I appreciate that. I don't know what part of me you're looking at.
I'm not saying older, younger, but you don't look 38.
All right. After the show, I'm going to show you a couple of parts of my body that do definitely look 38.
I'm really looking forward to that.
I bet. Mm-hmm. But here I am sitting as a single man in Costa Rica, and as we spoke, a lot of individuals do come down to this country, and rightly so, have an expectation that there is an opportunity to meet young, beautiful women who might be looking for an opportunity to get themselves into a relationship with a foreign man.
Absolutely. That's very much a situation that occurs many, many times here, which is why you need to think about what you're doing whilst you're doing it.
Whilst we are not here to make blanket generalizations. We're not going to paint this picture with a broad brush, but we are going to say that fairly so, there are quite a few young, attractive Costa Rican women who absolutely are very interested in getting into a relationship with an older American man for purposes that are outside of what we would consider typical emotional relationships. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. We're not going to blanket anything. I'm a little bit younger than what Corey is, but I've dated many, many, nice women here, and it was just that. It was fine. Many women here shy away from relationships with foreigners based on different aspects, but there is a very real situation that occurs, which you just mentioned, that they seek maybe older-ish men, American men, to pursue relationships for the purpose of monetary value or passports or leaving or whatever the case may be, depending on where they're from also.
Wow, you're not a lawyer, but you sound like one on the radio.
Cool.
Because if anything else, we're really dancing around the reality here. There's a lot of old men come down to Costa Rica to marry young women.
Yep.
Bottom line. And young women who are happy to have that relationship. But what we're getting at here is that we're going to call up Doug Smith and talk to him about what I was on the fence with. And at first it feels, for lack of a better word, a little bit icky to actually have a private investigator go out and do a little bit of due diligence, for lack of a better term again, on the girl that you're dating. But guess what? If you're getting yourself into a long-term situation with a girl in Costa Rica, typically the case is that you meet her family, you meet her priest in many cases, and you get to know them, and you feel comfortable that, hey, there's no way that there's anything in this girl's past or anything in this girl's history that she wouldn't reveal to me or that could be problematic in the future, right?
Well, you hope so, but in some cases, again, not in all cases, but in some cases, that's not the case.
But yeah, you never know.
If it maybe she didn't actually do anything herself, but her cousin or her brother or uncle or whatever that is somehow affiliated with her could bring you, if you choose to marry into that family, bring you into the equation. So you have to be super, super, super careful. And I agree, it's a little bit icky to in our culture to do a background check. But in these cases, maybe not the worst idea.
It's one phone call. It's like 300 to 400 bills, and you've got yourself all the information that you need to know that could save you tens of thousands of dollars and a lot of heartache in the future. Look, if I'm getting myself into a situation and I find out, 6 months down the road, that she has either been convicted of a crime or she has some sort of a restitutional obligation to an entity, as you're going to find out in this next story that we're going to tell. The thing is that actually can legally fall on me now. That burden becomes mine as her spouse.
Exactly.
If I can get that out of the way right away and know that I'm starting with a clean slate, then all the better.
I completely agree with that.
I don't want to belabor this topic, but I have been in a relationship, most recently with a girl where over the course of the relationship, an enormous amount of information was revealed. And I'm glad that was an honest situation. But at the end of it, I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot of baggage to take on.
Yeah, I mean, any relationship is complicated, and every person has complicated things or issues or whatever. But when you bring an international flavor into the equation, it complicates itself, tenfold.
I think the best thing to do then is to, we'll have a chat with Doug here in the next segment, see what he has to say and see what he dug up and give a good case example, because this is not you and I just talking out of the top of our hats. I mean, this is a real situation that I think a lot of expats coming to Costa Rica, no matter what age, have to take into consideration.
Oh, for sure. And let's not, beat around the bush. The relationship that occurs, with older American men and younger Latin women is mutual. There's a mutual thing there. But at the same time, if you're that American person, you need to be careful and be aware of everything that could happen to you as you engage further in that relationship.
Well put. Again, you sound like a lawyer on this show. I just want to say.
Hey, I do my best.
Moving on to all things ESL. Like I said, we got quite a few emails in from a lot of people who are interested in what we're doing down here in providing the TESOL certification program here in Jaco Beach and making that move of our center from Coronado over to here. Again, big thanks to Andre for joining us last week and bringing us to speed what's going on with the TESOL organization globally. And now I think what we're finding is that a surprisingly easy transition to Jaco.
Much, much easier than I can say either of us ever thought it would be.
We had a great weekend this one where we basically went from location to location to establish where the school is going to be, getting all the promotional material printed and pressed, getting everything in place so that we can go ahead and legitimately and legally and everything get this thing opened up in Jaco. And it's just been nothing but a cakewalk here, which is honestly the opposite, the polar opposite of what I've heard so many expats saying when they're getting their business open in a foreign country like Costa Rica.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, we've been working on this school for a couple of months now, making contacts and going around and shaking some hands. But this weekend, it really all came together and we finalized a whole bunch of things, location and material and et cetera. And it honestly has been super, super easy.
I have to say that there's something that has been kind of, itching at my brain here. And it's that I wonder if the ease with which we've been able to open this location here in Jaco has anything to do with the size of the community and the number of expats that are here versus the Central Valley and the San Jose area, where things generally are a lot harder to get done.
I think that has part to do with it, that it's easier to deal with some people like that. But also, I mean, we've been here, we've been doing it. You've seen it. We've been dealing with a lot of local people, a lot of Ticos, in what we've been dealing with. So maybe it's just a valley versus a beach thing. I don't know.
I think it's a fair point because, you and I have a lot of conversations about the differences between the folks who live in the Central Valley and the San Jose area and the folks that live on the coast. And there's a really remarkable difference between the two.
Well, we usually talk about the girl difference, but yeah, I think this extends to this example as well. We're talking with Ticos, with Costa Ricans, but with, who own businesses and run businesses, and et cetera, with regard to the Global TESOL School. And it's been great. It's been a good relationship. It's been a working relationship, and it's been very, very positive. I think you're right when we say if we were doing this in San Jose, if it was still in Coronado, if it was in San Jose now, it would not that it wouldn't be super difficult, but it would not be this easy.
It's funny because, I'm thinking a lot of the students who are coming down and going to be taking these programs month after month here in Jaco. And I think one of the things that's exciting for me is that the west coast of Costa Rica is honestly, it's an easier sail. I can only imagine if you and I were doing this right now in the Central Valley and in the San Jose area, it's very difficult to convince people to come down to San Jose and live, where it's really easy to get people to come down to Jaco and live on the west coast by the ocean for 3 weeks, 4 weeks and take this program.
I think that's it. I mean, we're on the ocean. We're right on the coast. If you're going to come and live in San Jose, that's good, but it's super saturated and come to the beach, and it's not a hard sale for anybody to come live at the beach for a month, take the program and enjoy your life.
And what it speaks to is really a lot of the listeners who are thinking about what are the entrepreneurial opportunities in a place like Costa Rica. And, I hear people on either side of the fence. There are a lot of folks who say, look, Costa Rica is too hard. The ease of doing business is too low. It's just difficult to get bank accounts. And it's not the kind of place that you want to do things when there are other options in the world. But I don't know if that's entirely the case. Again, we're talking about painting things with a broad brush. It's very difficult to do this sort of an operation in the Central Valley, whereas here, look, we didn't even get in a taxi. We didn't rent a car. We didn't have to go anywhere. We're walking from block to block to block, pressing palms, talking to people, and seeing what the opportunities exist here within a small community. That small community spirit it really supports something like this that are going to bring foreign instructors down to Costa Rica who are going to make this country better.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. I mean, we walked around maybe 20 minutes, half an hour everywhere. You know, Jaco is not a huge town, so everything is within walking distance. Everything that we need, we can walk to. There's something to be said about what you mentioned about foreign investment, but I think that only applies to big companies that are coming here. That some of the governmental regulations make it difficult for. But if you're Intel, if you're HP, maybe it's a little bit more difficult. But for teaching English for our school, I would say those rules don't apply.
Great points. We're going to run a commercial break. Going to call up Doug Smith, talk about due diligence here in Costa Rica. Thank you so much, Woody, for joining us today.
Anytime, man.
You're listening to This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip.
You're tuned in to overseasradio.com, the station to help you reach your dream destination.
Georgetown Global Metals is a division of Georgetown Trust Ltd., an international financial services company headquartered in Belize with offices in Zurich, Switzerland, and Panama City, Panama. Georgetown Global Metals is a leader in the physical acquisition and storage of metals worldwide. The company utilizes the best and most state-of-the-art facilities in Switzerland, Germany, Singapore, and Panama to store metals inside or outside the customs borders of the countries in which we maintain storage facilities. Georgetown can also acquire and store virtually any strategic, industrial, or defense-oriented metal for our clients. Most metals can also be fully insured throughout the delivery and storage process with Lloyd's of London. For a free, no-obligation quote on any precious or other metals, acquisition, or storage, please contact Louis Eck at georgetown@btl.net. Mention you heard about Georgetown Global Metals on ORN and receive 1 month storage absolutely free. Again, that is georgetown@btl.net or telephone International Country Code Belize plus 501-226-3569.
Establish your business in one of the most extraordinary cities in the world. Connect to a market of over 1.8 billion people from Dubai. Over 1,400 companies from around the world have made Dubai Airport Free Zone their Middle East and Africa headquarters. Dubai Airport Free Zone was rated one of the top free zones in the world. Let us help you set up your operations at Dubai Airport Free Zone and expand your market and sales in Asia and Africa. Call us at 214-537-9665 or send us an email at info@dafz-usa.com. That's info@dafz-usa.com.
Do you want to completely and legally end your obligations to the U.S. government, including your obligation to pay income tax on your worldwide income? The Nestman Group has experience in dozens of these cases, and we can show you how. Contact us at 1-602-604-1524 or on the web at www.nestman.com and sign up for our free blog. The Nestman Group, Wealth Preservation Solutions.
I don't recycle. I mean, we can just find another planet for your kids to live on, you know?
Log on to yougottabekidding.org and learn about all the ways you can recycle.
Hey, recycling's just not my thing.
Don't be that guy. Log on to yougottabekidding.org.
You're listening to the Overseas Radio Network, the exclusive online radio station for the expatriate community.
You know what I just heard?
What? Costa Rica has the reputation of being the happiest country on earth.
But it gets better.
This Week in Costa Rica brings you the best information.
The best.
From the people who understand why so many choose to call this beautiful place home. Bringing you the latest information from expats, experts, and people just like you who chose to escape, retire, and live in Costa Rica. This Week in Costa Rica. Pura Vida.
And welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. Spending a lovely Monday afternoon here in the Overseas Radio Broadcast Facility, bringing you all the news and blues out of this beautiful little country we call the Republic of Costa Rica. I felt today that I want to bring you a little more information, make a phone call into one of my friends now. Mr. Doug Smith has a great company called willspy.com. And the idea with these guys is they can help you find out everything that you need to know. And I use the word need to know about the people you get involved with and the businesses you get involved with here. Doug and I had a great conversation earlier in the week about a gentleman who unfortunately got himself into a sticky situation with a lovely young girl that he married, largely because I don't think he did his due diligence. So why don't I turn this over to Doug? And first of all, say hello to you. How are you, Doug?
Hi, good morning. How are you today, buddy?
I'm incredible. Thanks so much for taking my call. Now, could you explain to me again, really, what is the necessity or the reality here with a lot of situations where if you get into a relationship, business or otherwise, with someone here, why would I need to do a background check on them?
Well, a lot of North Americans are somewhat naive. They think they can pull information from government websites and stuff. And the government websites down here are just not financed correctly to enter all the data. And unfortunately, or whatever, because of the laws here in Costa Rica, a lot of the data in the public forum, if you will, or public databases are illegal in a public database. So if you don't have access to a very good private database, there's no way in heck you can possibly get the information on not only a young lady that you think you're in love with or married to, but business partners and stuff like that. Because everybody's going to tell you that I'm perfect. And in reality, probably 90% of the time we start diving into, be it young ladies or prospective business partners, it's not true.
And even considering that, let's say that I get involved in a relationship, business or otherwise here, and I do a background check maybe 5-6 years ago on that girl or that business partner, you recommend that as part of my due diligence that maybe every 2 or 3 years, I continue to have these investigations done, yeah?
Yeah, you need to do, for lack of a better term, a tune-up, okay? Or a physical. Go back in and make sure nothing catastrophically has changed. This is, I'll give you a prime example. This is the one that I called you on because this is gut-wrenching. A real nice American guy. He's not a monger. He wasn't coming down here chasing bad girls, okay? About 5 or 6 years ago, fell in love with a Costa Rican girl. Married her. And I don't know if he did his due diligence on her initially, but he felt comfortable. He met all of the family. It was Christmas dinners down here, you know, turkey empanadas, cranberry sauce, the whole deal. And he felt very, very comfortable. And again, this is 5-6 years. Well, I got a thing on Facebook, you know, on private messages. Doug, I need an inexpensive appeal attorney fast. Well, inexpensive appeal attorney shouldn't even be used in the same sentence because that in itself is an oxymoron.
Right.
Appeal cases are the most expensive cases you'll ever hire an attorney for. So I asked him to give me a call, and this is what happened to the poor guy. He got a call the previous night that his wife had been arrested and sentenced to 6 years in prison. And he said that as far as he knew, she had never been arrested prior to the previous night. And he said, Doug, I don't know if I'm getting scammed. I don't know what's going on. I got to have you jump on this and find out for me. Well, you know, the cliff notes are, we found out. Well, 6 years ago, this young lady had gotten into some kind of deal with a Colombian girl here on moving money, and there was no money. They arrested her 6 years ago initially.
Okay.
And charged her then. Well, for 6 years now, her aunts, her mothers, her fathers, her aunts, her uncles, the whole family had never told this North American that this was hanging over her head.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's married to her, and under the CAFTA agreement, with him being married to her, he can be held financially responsible for her actions. And the other bad thing is in Costa Rica, on an appeal, you've only got 3 days to appeal it.
Ugh.
So he had to come up with my fee lightning fast just so I could find out what the bejeebers is going on. Then the guy is forced into coming up with a big chunk of money after I found him an English-speaking attorney that has the experience at doing appeal work and stuff like this, and one that I knew for sure would not play jack around the gringo.
Mm-hmm.
And so out of nowhere, like over a 3-day period, this poor North American, because even if he divorced her, he was already married to her, and they could still go back and attach his property, his income, his whatever up there in the United States. So he had to lightning quick come up with round numbers about $6,000-$7,000 out of his gluteus maximus.
Yep.
And there are many, many, many people that don't have $6,000-$7,000 they can put their hands on in a 2 or 3 day period.
No.
And if he had, hindsight's 20/20. And I don't want to either the thing, well, he was a dumb gringo. It's not being a dumb gringo. It's being a naive North American.
Right.
Okay? Because after you meet somebody's family and you're connected to them for 5 or 6 years, there is no way in heck you would think that their mother, their father, the aunt, the uncle with the turkey empanadas at Christmas time would ever blatantly lie to you, eyeball to eyeball and face to face. So this guy thought everything was hunky-dory. He was working on the paperwork to get his wife and her son up to the United States, and he gets a bombshell dropped on him. And, if there was a good thing, out of this, it looks like we stand about a 95% chance of getting this girl out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
But between the attorney fee and my fee, he's had to fork out 5-6 G's. Then we have to work out a payoff to the merchant that her and the Colombian girl robbed, supposedly. Okay. And that's $12,000. So this guy, in order to save his wife and his adopted son and his assets in the United States from not being attached as wages and stuff, he's got to come up with, in less than 30 days, somewhere around $18,000 cash.
Ugh.
And, that's a demonstrative hit for anybody. And he's not a high roller. He's a working guy like you and me.
So all of this really,
if he had, say, 2 or 3 years ago, contacted me and said, hey, just for the heck of it, why don't you run her again and do 1 or 2 days of surveillance and see what the heck my little dumpling is doing?
Mm-hmm.
We would have known about it, and he could have then either decided to keep his wife, and that's cool. I mean, I'm not a marriage counselor, or drop her then and start to cover his financial derriere before he has this bomb dropped on him. And, I'm sick for the guy, but I'm glad that we were able to help him.
Of course. That makes perfect sense. Now, we only have maybe about 3 or 4 minutes left before I have to go to news here, Doug. But similarly, this kind of due diligence service you guys provide on title searches. Costa Rica, for example, is legendary on real estate scams. How can these Americans or North Americans come down here and protect themselves before they get themselves into a real estate investment using your services?
Okay. You got to have your land, your property, or whatever independently checked out. You don't use the same attorney to do the due diligence you did the land deal with. Second, most important is, do not get lulled into false security over buying title insurance. The title insurance companies that North Americans are comfortable with, all they do is sell the franchise to a company here in Costa Rica. They are not held responsible for the dealings of that company in Costa Rica. Thus, if they don't pay off on the title insurance, you're tied up in court just like you never had it.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
So, and that's what happens. A lot of North Americans, they'll do something on a project down here, You've got to make sure that if the project is not complete, it's not key ready, make sure on whoever your developer is, you have written in stone X amounts to be paid at the foundation, X amounts to be paid at electrical and plumbing, just like you do in the United States.
Gotcha.
And the second that those dates are not met, you darn sure better be calling me lightning fast, because all that money that you've been forking out has already disappeared. In Costa Rica, if they do it right, they can sell you land that they don't own.
Wow. Okay, Doug, we're going to have to... Doug, I'm afraid we have to leave it there. I got to run the news here. As always, great talking to you. I'm going to bring you back on the show again so we can continue this conversation. We're talking to Doug Smith at WillSpy. It's willspy.com. I'm going to put the link on my website as well, guys. Doug, thank you so much for your time. I wish I had all day to talk to you about this.
No problem. You're a good guy. I'm glad I could maybe help a little bit.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. I promise you next week we will do 2 hours together. TheWeekInCostaRica.com is the website for all of the show notes. Don't forget, we're on Facebook and Twitter as well. You guys have a great week. Catch you on the flip.
So you want to jump out your trick bag and ease on into hip bag, but you ain't just exactly sure what's hip.
Ready to learn about a new life overseas?